I'm just going to show you a little bit about our transformation. So purchased this property in 1993, and it was pretty well a blank slate. Now this is actually a few years later than that, but this is the earliest picture I have. So we live in the middle of Calgary, basically in the southwest part of Calgary, and we've got this flat roofed house. See if I can find, this is the property that how it looked in 1993. It was basically you know, this pie-shaped lot with lots of these deep corners and really huge mature trees. When I moved here, there were poplar trees, absolutely huge poplar trees every 5 feet along the neighbor's fence. So all through this area, there were a ton of tree roots from those trees. So it was impossible to put a garden in here. There were 5 apple trees, about 20 years old at that time, I believe, that were situated along the back fence. This is where the alleyway is. There was already a garage here, and there was a massive willow tree in this area here that was dying, and we didn't know what was going on. There was an old deck here at the time. And then birch trees and lots of spruce trees. This is a neighborhood where everybody back in the day got a spruce tree for, you know, at school and planted them. So there were a lot of spruce trees in our area. But there were also lots of great things about this property. There was room. I knew there was room and so much potential to grow a lot of food. And there was a lot of biomass available in the form of leaves. And also I knew that the neighbor had plans to take down those big poplars. So I thought, wow, there's a lot of resources available that we can glean from that, but also the root mortality that was going to happen underneath that lawn was going to really be a great resource for the plants that I wanted to put in. And so, you know, having grown up in the bush, and having worked in forestry and for the Alberta government in sustainable land management and resource inventory, basically tree species inventories and ecosystem dynamics and that sort of thing, I felt really comfortable about the idea of getting not only a garden in here, but a lot of productive species, right? Because I understood how ecosystems functioned. And so I was really keen on getting started. So one of the first things that I did, well, here's our location actually. So our neighborhood's about 50 years old. This is our property here, pie-shaped lot. It's just under a quarter acre that includes the house. So you can see we're in an urban environment, right, stuck in the middle of it. So we're north of latitude 51 in a growing zone 3, super close to the Rocky Mountains and at about 1045 meters above sea level. So our night times get really cool here. So really, having moved from Edmonton area down to Calgary area, even though Edmonton was 300 kilometers north of 180 miles north of Edmonton, our growing season here is 3 weeks shorter than Edmonton. So that I had to really kind of scratch my head and get my head around how I was going to, navigate that. But we have such a short growing season here, only 110 to 120 frost-free days. Wow, that's kind of short. Temperature swings anywhere from -40 in the winter to up to plus 32, 33, 34 degrees in the summer, and really cool to cold summer nights. So that really has an effect on shortening our growing season. So we had to come up with strategies to address that. So we knew we were going to be choosing cool season, short season varieties, indoor seeding. We were going to have to start a lot of stuff indoors. We were going to have to use our microclimates, use some season extension strategies. And that's going to be really important for us to take that short growing season and capture that seasonal currency in the food that we grow, so that we can store that food for the winter. So storage crops became really important to us down here. And it also meant that we had to change our composting strategies, that we really weren't going to be composting in the fall as much because our falls are so short. There's really not a lot of time to get that compost finished because we compost thermophilically. So typically that takes about 2 months minimum. We didn't have that time. And so we started to have to change a lot of our strategies. We also have these incredibly volatile weather patterns here that are absolutely nuts. We've got these Chinooks that come through, which can cause massive snow melt and massive degree changes, especially in the winter. Rapid, freeze thaw cycles, which can cause a lot of problems for plants. The biggest thing that we face really are the damaging hailstorms that can happen for a couple months in the middle of the summer. So that was something different we didn't see a lot of up north. And these extreme swings in temperatures and daytime temperatures, that's something that can be just a little bit nuts. So our strategies around those were really all around hail protection strategies, frost protection. Pretty well any time of the year we can get frost and snow. So those are some of the challenges we faced, and also seasonal drought. So that's something that we really didn't see a lot of 300 kilometers north. So that was really a challenge for us. How do we get enough water capture in place to meet our needs? And we knew those needs were going to be growing as we grew more plants in our backyard. So rainwater harvesting was super important for us. So our guiding values and visions for our landscape before we got started: we live harmoniously and in collaboration with our landscape and with our ecology, mindfully, humbly, and sincerely acknowledging I've got my picture in the middle of my text, our place within the whole. We respectfully meet our needs for optimum health and well-being by supporting the health and well-being of our ecosystem, of which we are an integral part. We joyfully interact with and support the dynamism of all the living systems and do our best to nurture these as well as to nurture ourselves. We are surrounded by overflowing abundance and peaceful sanctuary, and we create an environment of connection, community, cooperation, and inspiration. So with that guiding value and vision, we started to take action. So we wanted to design a landscape and interact with that landscape in a way that allowed us to be nurtured physically, emotionally, and spiritually, something that was overflowing with abundance, something that used and optimized the use of available resources and space that we had, all the microclimates that we had. We wanted to provide an important anchoring place for family, friends, and community. I've got 4 kids, raised 4 kids here, and we wanted to create that connection with community. And also the fact I moved around so much as a kid that having this place to really literally put roots in the ground was so vitally important to me. We also wanted this place to act as a teaching tool for urban farm school students, to see, experience permaculture principles in action, and create meaningful opportunities to share what we do with the broader community. So we hold, as I mentioned, we hold a lot of eco-yard tour events during the summer, and we'll typically get 200 people through our property. That is something that really we love to do. Yes, it takes time and effort from us, but we love to share what we do. So we designed this so that we could share it. So we're lucky we've got a generous amount of space to do that. And also a place that invited inquiry, inspires others to take action, and provides us with meaningful, beautiful lifestyle connected with the seasonal cycles. So this is all very much, in concert with deep-seated guiding values and belief systems that I have within myself. And, in the early years, it was all me. I did all the work on the property. My partner now, Kristen, of 8 years, when he came to live here with me, he really dove into, and I'm so grateful. He calls himself Mr. PISS, the Permaculture Infrastructure Support Specialist. So he's really fantastic at supporting what I do with Urban Farm School and building all kinds of epic things on the property. So it's really, I feel very fortunate. So in 1993, the property looked like this, as I showed you earlier. The next, so basically it was grass. This is kind of a conceptual photo montage of what the backyard actually looked like. 5 apple trees, a great big willow, and grass from stem to stern, nothing else. Every square inch of this property was grass. So when I started doing this, the first thing I did when my kids were little is I started composting. Our neighbors still had the really, really big trees. So there was lots of leaves coming through. So I started to gather up all of those, built compost bins, started to go. And then I would start inch by inch removing the sod and I'd have my big wheelbarrow of compost, and I would sit there and I'd take that compost and I'd massage it into that heavy clay soil. And I spent, the first year basically just doing that. We didn't have any soil to bring in at that time. We were using the native soil. And it was quite amazing process, because in one of my side gardens, I actually found 2 arrowheads in my garden. And that was really, really an amazing thing, because I'd always been looking for a place that gave me that sense of place, sense of belonging, and somehow finding those arrowheads just rooted me in with more of the history and land use, the traditional land use of this area. So the first year, built compost bins and created a main garden area right in this zone here. And also added in some rainwater capture. Obviously, we really needed that as I was growing, getting this garden growing. I really needed that water resource. So this is where the water was all stacked up, was right against the house here. So that was year 1. Year 3, the neighbor removed all those poplars from the fence. So that really changed things for me, because it meant that I could start developing this edge around here and have an opportunity to have something grow, which was great. So we increased the number of compost bins. Yay, love compost. Planted a pollinator garden around part of that vegetable garden to create more integration. And then added the side garden here. This is where I found those arrowheads, and added a few perennial beds in the front. That was year 3. Year 5, we built a huge pergola along that fence here, the fence line, expanded more perennial beds, all this. So we built a big pergola in the back for hops, and removed all the grass from underneath these apple trees, because I know that they didn't like that at all, the grass. So we started to work on that, and then added a small little greenhouse, real handmade thing. But boy, I felt I died and gone to heaven back then. I think it just had like a plastic top, but it was just something, a place I loved spending time in. So this was early on, just after I think we built the pergola, and you can see some of the perennial beds in there. There's some espalier apple trees, the hops are growing. There's some fruit producing trees and shrubs in here, and lots of pollinator support perennials. Year 7, we expanded the main garden area even further, expanded the pollinator garden to actually go around the main garden. We took down the old deck. So the old, big, beautiful willow tree that was dying had to come down. We found out that the previous owners had put some really thick poly underneath the deck to keep the weeds out for some reason, but it had been starving that poor old tree. So we felt really bad about that, but we had to take it out. But what it did do was open up so many more solar opportunities here. And so the solar resources on our property really increased with the removal of that tree. So we continue to expand our growing area. So every year we decrease the amount of grass on our property, which was so great, and allowed us to start stacking that ecosystem, those layers of that ecosystem. Today, this is what the property looks like. It's fully stacked, and I'm telling Christian, we might have to move at some point, because we have no more place to put the things that I'd like to grow. And but we've really optimized every single area of our yard. And I think that is what makes this property so successful, is that over the years, we've taken the time to really observe what's going on our property. We've observed how the sun moves as those trees are maturing in our area. We've learned how, which areas are the hot spots, which are hot in the morning, which are hot in the afternoon, which get dappled shade, which reflective surfaces are a benefit and which are a hindrance. We've learned to use thermal mass really effectively. So we've really optimized the use of every square inch of our property, and it is incredibly productive and really beautiful and nurturing. So we've got all kinds of layers of things in here, and now what we've got is this humming ecosystem. It's humming now, and that's a beautiful space when you start to be able to see the evolution of your property over time. As you grow and learn, your property grows in different ways, and you're able to nurture it into abundance step by step. So there's so much going on here. And I'll show you some pictures and I'll take you through some of the elements that we've employed here. So from 1993 to 2020, it's a big, big shift. And it's a little bit different now. Actually, that's an older shot from the top, but you can see how little grass is left now. And that area is actually even smaller. So it's quite funny because my partner, Christian, now we've got just a real perfect circle. It's about 30% smaller now. And he likes those little solar lights, you know, so we've got solar lights around here. And it looks like a landing pad. I keep joking him that it's the landing pad for the aliens when they come to pick him up. So he loves that.